we are trying to make a correlation between how our students performed on the FA in reading, and we are really in the process right now of comparing that to the schools not here that are not using failure free with a similar population, and we're really seeing great results on the FA. There seems to be a connection going on, and I'm going to get much more detail to that, Dr. Lakovich, much more than what I preliminarily shared with you. But it's really great. I mean, we're seeing kids 7, 8, 9. Okay.
Go on, please. I'm sorry.
So that's it. I was just going to say, we're not looking at many students coming up with their 4, 5, 6. They're in the 7, 8, 9 category on the FA.
And 7, 8, 9 means?
That's the what is that category called? More than proficiency. It's the highest level.
And didn't we find that 92% of the failure-free reading kids passed FA?
Yes, we did. We're totally seeing that. Of course, the research, we're really going to look at a comparison, of the schools and those kids without the intervention. But yeah, very high numbers.
So, to the teachers that are in the room, I want to thank you for doing the job that you do. It's just exciting. My failure-free veterans and my soon-to-be failure-free family members. So, thank you so much. We're so excited. So, that's what we're designed to do. And what's our belief? Well, the belief is that the enemy to reading success is not the student, it's not the teacher, it's not the parent or the administrator. Let me say it unequivocally. You are not the problem, nor is your student, parent, or administrator. The real problem is the instructional approach and the inappropriateness of the instructional materials as it pertains to the unique needs of this particular population. In other words, all programs work. I'm not going to get into an argument of which program is better, but they don't work for all students and especially all populations. Failure Free is specifically designed for those students who need the most structured, the most sophisticated approach for their particular needs. So, you change the approach, you will change their performance outcomes as seen by improvement in vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, attitude, time on task. Now, I want to share with you one fact that I believe everyone must know about the teaching of reading, especially as it pertains to the unique needs of this particular population, and that is that the brain does compensate. We've been fortunate enough to be involved in some very sophisticated neuroimaging studies that have occurred nationally. And one of the things that's critical is that the brain was designed, when it comes to the area of reading, there are actually 2 neural pathways that are allowed, that are available to individuals to recognize words. One pathway is phonic, and for lack of other terms, the other pathway is visual. Now, here's the most important thing to understand. Both pathways work. In other words, in a perfect world, both pathways, they complement each other, okay? Both pathways are designed to constantly be interacting with each other. They're built to complement. And by the way, are my graphics changing?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so then I love this next one. Now, sometimes, however, one pathway is not working as well as the other pathway initially. And it's great to know that one pathway can carry the load when another pathway falters. And that's where Failure Free is designed to do. We are primarily, we tap into that visual pathway initially. And I keep on coming back to the word initially. I'm not saying that the phonic pathway is inappropriate. I'm saying it's not a good first step. So we were involved in a landmark international brain research study where it was found that Failure Free, again, along with 3 other programs that were phonic-based, So failure-free was that non-phonic visual-based, that we could actually rebuild white cortical brain cells in the brains of poor readers. Is that not incredible? And this study was done by neuroimaging researchers at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh and at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So we received one of the highest scores for Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions by researchers at the National Center for Response to Intervention. We have 9 published peer-reviewed studies, including the last 2 in Neuron and Neuropsychological. That was an international study talking about the impact on brain research. Now, my work has shown that our kids, chronic non-responders, kids who are having the greatest difficulty, have 3 characteristics that set them apart from their achieving peers. And I talk in my book, The Failure-Free Methodology, New Hope for Non-Readers, I say that they're PD, they're ED, and they're LD. PD, ED, and LD. PD stands for the phrase phonetically deaf. Now, what I'm basically saying is this. There are some kids that were born with a tinea for sound. In addition to that, my argument with phonics is not that I am anti-phonic. I believe in the benefits of phonics. As I said, all programs work. They don't work for all students. My argument is with the introduction of phonics as a first step when we're working with cognitively challenged or developmentally delayed students. I think phonics initially is too confusing for many of the students that I've just described. And so it's not that I am against it. What I am against is the phonics first, as opposed to I see phonics coming in either in conjunction with the use of failure-free, so I'm not against that, or coming in a little bit later after the students get a basic understanding of what it feels like to read. So failure-free is a process-first approach. Phonics is a skills-first approach. Does that make sense? Are there any questions as to what I'm saying right now?
And again, if anyone has a question, yeah, can you just repeat that last statement, and then we'll see if anyone has a question for you.
Again, what I'm saying is that I am not anti-phonic, because sometimes people think that's what I'm saying. I am anti-phonic first for students who are cognitively challenged and for students that have developmental delays, because I think it's too confusing to them. Failure-free is, let me give you the best analogy I can give, and I use it all the time. I can teach you how to ride a bike one of 2 ways. One way, I'm going to bring you to the garage Saturday morning. I'm going to put every individual bike part on the garage floor, and I'm going to start to drill you on wheels, spokes, handlebars, gears, brake pedals. Now, I don't care if it's days, weeks, months, years, you will never get on the bike until you can first tell me about wheels, spokes, handlebars, gears, brake pedals. The second way I can ride the bike is by putting you on the bike. As you start to experience what it feels like to ride that bike, then I'll tell you about wheels, spokes, handlebars, gears, brake pedals. The first is called the skills-first approach, and that's what phonics is, letters and letter sounds, drilling and decoding. The second is called the process-first approach, which is what failure-free is. The words scaffold the sentences scaffold the paragraphs. A paragraph is the basic unit of instruction. Once they understand what it feels like to read a paragraph and build from there, then we bring in the skills. Questions?
Anyone have a question? Yeah, we have one.
His concept is for providing, a basic phonics and like that. Trying to bring them into speaking.
Okay, so Dr. Lockovich, I think the question, did you hear it?
I need you to tell me the question.
Okay.
I want to know if you said that phonics is not the first.
Right.
I mean, as far as getting them to process experience, should be like some sight words.
Okay, so I think that's what you're going to hear about. The question is about, I guess it's just confirming what you said. So what you're recommending first is what we're about to get into in terms of how this program begins versus starting with how I think most of us, if not all of us, probably learn to read, right from the beginning, with the skills first. You're saying don't skip the skills, don't add the skills, maybe even in conjunction, right, Dr. Lakovich? But we're saying first, we're looking at what this is all about. We're not talking about the skills first. We're talking about we're going to go right into the appropriate level of reading first.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Let me make one more thing that's very important. The opposite of phonic instruction is not flashcards. Okay? So we're not going to just go into a visually based flashcard approach. That isn't going to work either. The thing that makes Failure Free unique is that what we know is our kids will recognize words, but they need abundant context. They need abundant practice. They need to see these words, but they don't need to see the words in flashcards. They need to see the words in the most predictable and meaningful context. That text, T-E-X-T, that text does matter in the teaching of reading. And that's one of the unique features of Failure Free. I eliminated all of the contextual roadblocks that prevent our kids from having meaningful experiences, uncommon names, dates, and places, idiomatic expressions, figurative speech, abundant use of pronouns. That's why Failure Free works so well. They see the words in abundance, but they see it in the most meaningful context. Now, when they do that, then they start to understand what it feels like to read, because that's why it works so well. Now, if you want to add letters and letter sounds and phonics in conjunction with, that's fine. I have no problem with it. As long as you adhere to the fidelity of my program, you can add to that.
Everyone clear about that? Adding at the same time. Yeah. Right, like add to this program, even though what you're adding may very well be phonics based. Right, Dr. Lakovich, is it your statement?
You can do 5 minutes a day with letters and letter sounds. You can do some, single little drills if you want. I don't have a problem, because Failure Free, when they come to a strange word, you can ask them, or if they're having difficulty, you can ask them to look at the initial consonant. What sound does it make? I don't have a problem with any of that.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. So the second is they're environmentally and developmentally delayed, too. You cannot read for meaning something you cannot relate to. You have kids who are developmentally delayed and also coming from poor backgrounds economically. You also have kids that are coming from middle and upper income backgrounds, but they're still cognitively and developmentally delayed. Regardless, you cannot read for meaning something you can't relate to. So we have to always remember we're predicated on the 3-word philosophy, which is reading is relating. Every fiber of your being in that pre-teaching session is to make sure that they can relate to the content you're putting in front of them. If they can't relate to it, they cannot read it for meaning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we like that. Reading is relating.
And the third is LP, and LP stands for the notion language deprived. You've got many students who are coming from homes where standard English is not the spoken language. You have many students that are coming just from language delay because of cognitive and developmental delays. But many of your students are not exposed to academic language. So language is one of them. Here's a persistent finding, flat out. Your students' vocabulary knowledge will determine how well they can read for meaning. Reading comprehension is exclusively, almost entirely, based on the notion of language. If you want to elevate their reading comprehension levels, you have to elevate their vocabulary levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Everybody nodded.
If you buy into that, then you will understand this. I say it all the time. I rue the day that I called it the Failure-Free Reading Program. I really should have called it what it is. It is a highly structured language development program. What we're designed to do is to give you a vehicle to identify where your students' current academic English reading ability is, and then to start to develop the critical vocabulary that they must know in order to be successful. So researchers have identified 3 bodies of academic English words that need to be taught and mastered. Your students cannot become functionally literate. They cannot read for meaning. They cannot do anything if you don't understand this pyramid. This is what I call the academic English literacy pyramid. At the base of everything is what's known as your Tier 1 most common words. Then you have your Tier 2 more sophisticated academic words, and then you have your Tier 3 or your content-related words that are unique to a particular discipline. But this is the key. At the base of everything is your Tier 1 most common words. Now, let me tell you some good news. The good news is that the English language is highly redundant. It is highly redundant. Now, what that basically means is this. There's a core body of 2,000 English words that are the most common words. They're used most frequently. They're in every sentence. The Dolch, D-O-L-C-H, 220 word list are the 220 most frequently used words in the English language. We all try to teach Dolch, but let me tell you something, and you all know this. We're my combat veterans of 10 and 15 years. The most frustrating thing is trying to teach the Dolch word list in isolation and in flashcards because they're abstract words. Look, I can teach anybody in this room the word hospital, and I can then put a visual that they compare in their mind to the word hospital. Would you all agree with that? Okay, so one would think, boy, there's a lot of syllables, a lot of letters in the word hospital. But the truth of the matter is, the teaching of the word hospital, because it's so concrete, because it is so easily visual, is almost 100 times easier to teach than the next word. And you know what the next word is? You ready? T-H-E, the. Right? And the reason why is I can look at a hospital, I can visualize a hospital, I can see it in my mind. Tell me I want somebody to define the word the. Tell me what the looks like. Tell me what it is. And the same thing with the word like where, or there, or who, or you. They're all abstract. And so when you try to teach it in isolation and in flashcards, you get kids that have a stack of flashcards in front of them, but when they see it in context, they can't read it. So Failure-Free is not a flashcard-based program. It is putting these words in the most redundant, in the most meaningful fashion within a meaningful context. Does that make sense?
Yes, all nodding.
So here's the thing that's most important. When we teach these 2,000 words, and by the way, I'm going to give you the vehicle to teach these 2,000 words. Actually, 2,605 words. But when you teach those 2,000 words, your students will be able to recognize 90% of all of the words that they'll see in grades 1 through 9. Is that not incredible?
Yep.
Now, here's the thing that's frightening. There is no other intervention that systematically and explicitly teaches these words in the most meaningful context, because basic researchers have made a mistake that does not fly in the world of special education. Basic researchers in vocabulary teaching come out of the world of regular ed. And here's the assumption that they make, that these most common words, these 2,000 most critical words, these words that are absolutely essential to the mastery of reading, do not have to be explicitly or systematically taught, that the kids will learn them innately as they read. That may fly for regular ed, but it sure don't fly for our kids. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yep.
So failure-free is a diagnostic, prescriptive, instructional program specifically designed to allow you to see where your students are along the continuum of 11 entry points that measure their current academic English reading ability, starting from beginning first grade all the way up to SAT level words. That's what we call even though we call it our elementary solution in the world of regular ed, many of you are going to be working with it in your middle school classes. So our elementary solution actually consists of 4 levels. It teaches 2,605 unique academic words found in grades 1 through 5. When your students are done, if they go through the 27 stories, and not all will, they will have mastered 5,304 English sentences, and they will have been involved in over 6,000 plus academic English practice activities. Would you not say that's a lot? Yes?
We all agree. We all agree.
Okay. So, now we're getting into the training. The training has to deal with what are the materials that you have available. The core material that you have is what we call the elementary level or the basic failure-free reading material. The basic failure-free reading material consists of 4 levels, and they're color-coded. Red, green, orange, teal. And by the way, Janice, I will send this to you. I also am going to send you a quick start guide that you can send electronically to everybody. And I will send you a Why It Works link as well. So you'll have all 3 that I'll send to you, and then you can disperse electronically to your people.
Absolutely, that's great. Everybody here is going to get everything you sent to me.
That is correct. So what you have then is you have 4 levels based on 4 thematic. What we do is we teach a series of stories in the most meaningful and as close to authentic text based on themes that that make sense based on the words we're using. So what it means is this. I sat down with a first grade word list. It was called the EDL Core Vocabulary List, the most researched word list in the history of the United States. And I had over 400, maybe close to 500 words in alphabetical order that were coming from the beginning, found in almost every beginning first or basal reader or anything. Does that all make sense? And then I tried to create a theme and then create stories that were most meaningful off of this 400 plus word list. So the first theme was going to the park. There are 7 stories based on the theme going to the park. There are a total of 59 lessons. Your Lexile range on that are 260 to 490, and the reading level is somewhere between kindergarten to mid-first grade. Then I went and I looked at the next segment, which was the second half of first grade, very beginning second grade word list, and that was my green level. And in my green level, I created the theme going to the farm. 6 interrelated stories, 61 lessons, Lexile level 400 to 530, and the reading level of first to second grade. Then I looked at the second, third grade list, and I came out with Orange A and Orange B. 7 stories based on the theme going on a train ride. The first 5 stories, Orange A, are all written on a solid second grade level. The last 2 stories, Orange B, which is Making the Journey in My Grandfather's Farm, is a very concentrated. I added that at the end. There are 24 lessons there that teach over 400 plus words, solid third grade. But it is a big jump between Orange A and Orange B. So that is going to be requiring a little bit more intensive teaching. And I've got an illustration that I'm going to show in the training as to the difference it can make in the student if we don't make adaptations instructionally for that student. And then the last is, and by the way, the Lexile on that is 420 to 890, second and third grade reading level. And then the last is Teal. That's 7 stories, 78 lessons. That's based on, it's for your older kids. It's 4th, 5th grade. It's based on shopping at the mall. So 7 stories. There's Teal A, Teal B, Teal C. Teal A are the first 2 to 3 stories written at beginning 4th grade. Teal B is the next 2 to 3 stories written at ending 4th grade. And then the last 2 stories, the Downtown Complex and Explorers, is written at solid 5th grade. So the Lexile are 940 to 1160. The reading level is 4th, 5th. Does that make sense? This is a good time to ask some questions right now. Are there any questions, or do you see the continuum here, ranging from beginning 1st grade all the way up to 5th grade?
Anyone have a question about this part so far? We're good.
Okay. Now, one thing a lot of people don't realize is there are writing activities that correspond to Orange and Teal. So every time a student learns one of the stories in the sequence, in your electronic library and in your teacher kit, you have writing materials to help them in written composition, how to formulate sentences, and also how to write a paragraph or a story. It's based on the work that Don Deschler did at the University of Kansas Adolescent LD Center, and it's called the Kerrigan Writing Technique. It's very good, very effective. So I would build in, when they finish a story in Orange or Teal, and Verbal Master obviously has that, then you can do a day or 2 or 1 day in writing. Any questions on that?
We're okay.
Okay. So, in summary or in review, each new word in your program is reinforced a minimum of 12 to 14 times. The words will scaffold the sentences. The sentences will scaffold the paragraphs. And the words, the sentence, and paragraphs are reviewed and reinforced daily. And every paragraph is an extension to the point where they, at the end of either 5, 10, or 12 paragraphs, they will have read and mastered a reading booklet. Does anybody of my veterans want to share about the joy that some of the kids had when they read their first reading booklet?
Anyone want to have an experience, a student? Yeah, we have one. I might have to repeat it for you, Dr. Lockovich. Go ahead.
That's great. Thank you.
That's the 8th grader who just the school, but she started the program right after we did our training. She started out at the green level.
Right.
And while, you don't look for a super advancement, at the point where she loves us, she's already in orange, B-level orange, which is pretty good considering that she moved up from last year, from the first year she moved up to that orange level. And
Yep.
she's already at the orange, but she's moved up through the program, and it's been really nice to see her progress. Where she was just, I can't do this, I can't read anything, to where she'll sit down and show other students things. That was really nice. And like I said, she's not my best reader, but she's made the most improvement
Right.
in the program. Other students obviously made.
Of course. Did you hear that, gentleman? Talking about that was from Olson Middle, right? Mr. Townley, who is just describing a student who maybe hasn't made the most, who isn't the highest level, but started out at the green and now she's at the orange B, feeling.
And she just feels a lot more confident. She's
Right.
willing to help other students.
Feeling confident, willing to help others.
Negative about everything.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and for training purposes, let me reinforce what you said. I'm going to go back let me see if I can go back. And what you said, it was Mr. Townley?
Probably, yeah.
Townley, yeah.
Townley. And Mr. Townley, this is recorded, so I'm going to ask for your verbal permission if other people want to hear that you don't mind, do you?
That's fine.
He just wants to have, what do you call that? You know when
Yes.
Oh, I was talking about this.
I want to add on something.
Right.
Here we have someone that wants to add on to that. Go ahead.
I love it.
Working guys together, and I happened to work with that student last year on the program.
Right.
And I kind of want to understanding his concept now. And I listened to Mrs. Dunning when we first used it. And there was a lot of reiterating, which I liked. I thought that was one of the first things that caught my eye, is the reiterating. That student in particular.
Right.
But the sentences, as he writes out, they're trying to, and he kind of, it's the same thing, kind of said in a different way, but you know, the same thing, and just reiterating, so it gets keep relating. I was really because he mentioned the knowledge versus experience. The reiterating has been the numerous pictures
Right.
that I noticed, you know,
In the books.
and they're very good and very clear to what is being read.
Right.
I'm just thinking that's part of his main concept, you know, the whole experience concept.
Yeah. So the comment is this other gentleman, and you want to give your name also,
Perando, Mr. Perando.
Mr. Perando, who also works with Mr. Townley in the same school, and seeing very similar experiences with students, commented about how great the pictures that are. I guess I don't want to.
They're very exactly what's being read.
Yeah, there's just a great connection to what's being read and what the pictures are showing. Seems to help with the knowledge.
Everything pictures.
Yeah, they just feeling really good about, I guess, the whole presentation.
Yeah, understanding.
Yeah, real.
Well, I want to thank both of you for this and for the new teachers. Let me put it into an instructional point. Number one, and I don't need a student identification. Mr. Townley, this is a student that is intellectually disabled and has autism.
A student that you're describing, not by name, but just intellectually disabled. Intellectually disabled.
Okay, and this is a student that was how old?
When she first started, she's 15 now. She started, I guess, when she was.
Yeah, she started when she was 13. She's 15 this year. So this year she's an 8th grader?
Right, this will be her third.
Right, because she started when she was in 6th grade.
Right.
She started in 6th grade and now she's in 8th grade.
That's what she heard.
Right.
She's the one we had the long.
Right. Right.
Yeah, now let me just illustrate what I mean by the accelerated learning. And again, it's not so much of how wonderful I am and the program is, so much as what I'm talking about when I say what can happen when you change the approach and you use appropriate materials for this particular population. The girl started at 13 years old. She was in 6th grade. On the diagnostic prescriptive, she entered at our green level. That means that girl had a reading frustration level of end of 1st grade. So she was at frustration level when you put any 1st grade, second half 1st grade material in front of her. Now, let's look at what that says. What we're saying is that this girl had been in school for close to 6 years, And it wasn't that you weren't teaching less in terms of time and energy. You were still spending the same time and the same energy. And yet at the end, and I don't mean you, one person, I'm talking about the system. At the end of 6 years of instruction, she was essentially at a second half first grade. So if you break that into months, she had been in school for almost 60 months, and she was gaining approximately 1 month of reading growth every year. Now, you're telling me now that a year and a half later, she's at Orange B. Orange B is a reading frustration level of 3rd grade. So this young lady went from end of 1st grade to 3rd grade, almost a year and a half to close to 2 years growth in less than a year and a half. Do you see the difference in terms of return on investment? The girl is clearly still behind, but she's now starting to move and accelerating her own individual learning curve. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's remarkable. All right. So 27 stories, 2,605 unique words, orally read in English, 5,300 sentences. The Tier 2 words are the words that occur at 6th grade through SAT, ACT. Those are the words that are recognized by more sophisticated readers. They know 40 to 80% of all of the readers know these words. They're words like masterpiece, fortunate, industrious. That's our Verbal Master program. Verbal Master is, there are 4 levels in Verbal Master. Level 1 is teaching 6th, 7th grade. Level 2, 8th, 9th. Level 3, 10th, 11th. Level 4, SAT, ACT. 180 words in each level. There are what we call 36-word units of 5 words apiece and 6 clusters. And that's how Verbal Master works. And then the last is what we call the rare words. These are the words unique to a discipline. In Failure Free, that's our life skills program. That's where we're teaching a school-to-work transition program for students with cognitive disabilities, those kids that are 16 to 21, IQs as low as 45, reading 0.0 or higher. And we have 4 themes: independent living, driver's license, drug prevention, employment. Most of you will not be dealing with life skills, but that's moving on to the high school.
Right, and we do, Dr. Longer, have high schools here that have the life skills, right? Do we? Yes? Yes. I mean, the majority of us in the room are the middle school, but we have a few of the high schools, that have also made the purchase.
And that's good, and don't worry about it because it's the methodology and the approach, and I can send you a training for life skills as well, just to show a little bit of a difference. So I just did one recently for a client, and I'll be glad to send that to Janice, and Janice can send it to you. Okay. So what makes us so different is the notion of we're the first intervention to reduce reading to its simplest form by controlling 4 of the roadblocks. Abundant repetition. We're based on the notion MEMC, multiple exposures, multiple contexts. Basic sentence structure. So we write initially in simple, positive, active, declarative sentences and understandable story content. No idiomatic expressions, figurative speech, uncommon names, dates, and places, and pronouns. This is what makes us so unique. Abundant word density ratio and or repetition. Sentence structure. Now, we're also using that blended learning model. So we're structured because our kids need structure. We're explicit. We leave nothing for granted. Reading is relating. Input precedes output. And the eyes are the mirror of the mind. You have to look at their eyes, so we want to make sure that they can always relate to the material. Then they go to the talking software. Everything on the screen talks, so they don't have to know how to read in order to learn how to read. And then they go to the paper and pencil reinforcement activities. It's a 3-stage instructional procedure that can be done 45 minutes to an hour. 15 to 20 minutes with the teacher. Don't panic, it'll come back.
It's there.
Okay. 15 to 20 minutes on the software, 15 to 20 minutes on the reinforcement activity. I'm going to go over that in greater detail in a few minutes. So, there are 3 steps to getting started. We are a complete diagnostic, prescriptive instructional program. The 3 steps start with diagnose, then instruct, and then report. That's what the rest of this session is all going to be about, how to get started. The first step is logging in. Tell me what your screen looks like.
Let's see, the failure-free site. Is that the home page? Yeah.
That's correct. So you.
And by the way, Dr. Montgomery, just so you know, everyone has laptops with them, so if there's any part of this that you wanted them to be involved, we can do it.
I think right now, if y'all will follow this, it'll keep us all on task, and then we can go back and play with it.
Good.
Because then I know that everybody has gotten it. I hate to be the taskmaster, but then I know this. Now, by the way, everything we're talking about will also be reinforced in the quick start guide too.
Yeah.
So you go into Failure Free. It's www.failurefreeonline.com, and again, that's in your quick start. Then up in the upper right-hand corner where this arrow is your login information. And in that, you will have passwords. The passwords are usually your email address, and then initially it's a false password. So you type in your email address and you type in password. Now you can change that, the password if you want later on. That's not a problem. And then you would hit the enter button. Excuse me, I'm very close to the edge and I just keep on getting out of my PowerPoint. So, very simple, very straightforward. Now, once you log in, your screen will change to where you will see what's called the Teacher Tools button. Now, most of you are only going to see the Teacher's Toolbox here. Some people, such as Janet, have administrative tools because that allows her to, from her laptop, to go to the various classrooms. So if you have a question of a kid, she doesn't always have to come running to you. She can, you and she and me as well, we can set up a time and the 3 of us can all log in and we can all look at the same student and come up with a situation or a solution. And by the way, I want to share with you this. Not only have you purchased Failure Free, that's the good news. The bad news is you also get me. And that basically means this. I don't go away. I want to help you with your kids. I believe I have the best support staff around here. I think my tech support people, Jeff Clayton, Marshall, my combat veterans, my failure-free veterans attest to the fact that when you call for help or for service, my people are 110%.
Yeah, we're getting thumbs up. They're awesome. Marshall, Ward, Jeff Clayton. I mean, you call, you're talking to a person that's ready and available on the phone to help you. Knowledgeable, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Call you back. I mean, we're getting some really nice comments because I know, I'm not the highly technology-oriented person. Believe me, I was panicked before we got started here this morning, right? And I know I'm not the only one, but but still, the help that we get and that everyone here can expect is the best part.
Wonderful. So everything always starts with enrolling the student. It's very straightforward. You would go to your teacher tools and you would click on the student enrollment. Now, see if I can blow this up just a little. As I say, very, very straightforward. You just put in, if it's asterisk, you put in the student's first name, the last name, the gender. Please put in grade if you can. I know that there's a button there where it says other, but I am really going to ask, try to get as close to their chronological age grade level. So, we know we're not there developmentally, but it allows us to see where they're at this moment in time. So put in an actual grade level for your kids. Then it will say, do you want to diagnose the student now? It defaults to no, and the reason why you want to do that is it will allow you to enter all of your students at once, and then you can go to do the actual diagnostic. And then on the bottom, all students get what's known as their access code. Every student has a unique access code. Don't panic, because there is a report that will allow you to print out the student's access code, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you have some kids who might be homebound or who want to access it for whatever reason away from your classroom, they can do that because it is all online. So that's very, very easy, very straightforward. It's really a piece of cake. Any questions as to how to enroll a student?
I think so far we heard that you can actually enroll the whole group of students all at one time, one after the other, right? Okay.
Yes.
We had one question.
Okay. Okay.
Can you customize for a specific student if they needed the font enlarged, if they needed to use any assistive technology?
With the HTML5 version, you can increase the view. So you would have to be working closely with that student for that, and you would have to do it on a single time, every time basis. But it is, while it is cumbersome, it is a way for you to do that.
Okay, thank you. We're with you.
And let me share with you what I mean by the HTML5 for my combat veterans. What it basically means is this. Last year you were in a program, and by the way, you can still use that program. You have access to two programs. One is to the new HTML5 version, and the other is to the old version. The old version was a Flash-based program. It still works. It's still great. The HTML5 allows failure-free to be run on virtually any mobile device. So you can run, if you do HTML5, you can run it on smartphones, you can run it on iPads, you can run it on tablets. So it gives you a greater opportunity to use it in different platforms.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
A question about that. Go ahead. We have one more question, Dr. Lakovich, about that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so then, because I saw the different levels, I see how it is that you can run it on the old and you can run it on the new version. My name's Cassandra, I'm kind of a veteran of it. And so saying that I could just, the students they can press the top one. Do we need to update our software though on the computer system in order for it to run?
Now, what you would do is you would set the stages. You would re-bookmark them, and then you would bookmark them. And I'm going to show you how the bookmark works. When you see the bookmark page, the first thing it asks is, what platform do you want to run on? Do you want to run on HTML5, or do you want to run it on the old version? And then you just click the button to the side of it.
Oh, okay, and then we shouldn't have any problem? Should run fine?
You should have, no, you won't have any problems.
Oh, okay.
And
we're ready for it.
And if you do, in fact, Jeff is going to come in here right now because he heard my big mouth from the other room. Jeff is the person that is most responsible for HTML5. He has worked diligently on this for a year. I'm going to give you 60 seconds with Jeff, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm watching. Yes, I'm watching the webinar and listening and trying to record it at the same time, considering, we want to make sure it's available. The HTML5 one, You have to have at least Internet Explorer 9. XP does not like Internet Explorer 9. It's too old. But so that's why we're leaving the old classic Flash version up. It still works, and so older devices, you have to install Flash. You're probably aware of that already if you're using it in your schools. You guys have used this for a while, so you're familiar with that version. The newer one,
Here is Windows 7.
right? Yeah, the Windows 7 can handle all the way up to Internet Explorer 10. The newer one, the better. The truth is it works fine from Internet Explorer 9 and up, but like I said, HTML5 was not supported in Internet Explorer 8. It was not invented until Internet Explorer 9, and really it wasn't upgraded as a capability for web browsers by Microsoft and other things until Internet Explorer 10. So 9 sort of does it, but we try to make it so that it works fine in 9 anyway, even though it's partially supported. We've added extra scripting to make sure that it works right. So as long as you've at least got Internet Explorer 9 or up, or if you choose to use it, you can use Chrome or Firefox. They keep themselves updated, and they have been compatible with HTML5 since the get-go. So Firefox and Internet Explorer 9 or better, or Chrome. And just keep them updated, and they should be just fine for you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Sure.
And Dr. Joe is back. But that's the kind of response you get. Our people are right here at your beck and call. Because I'll tell you one thing, when Janice Koplik talks, failure free listens. All right. Here we go. So we know how to enroll. Once you enroll the students, then you will go. It will automatically go to your class view screen. Your class view screen shows you the name of the students and their current bookmark. Now, all I want you to do in terms of nomenclature is this: failure free will move you automatically. There's a one-time enrollment, which means once you enroll them into the program, it automatically takes them through the various sequences called bookmarks. A bookmark is where the student left off and completed. There are diagnostic bookmarks, there are instructional bookmarks. These are all part of the program. You can always edit a bookmark, which means you can always move a student forward, backward. That's always up to the professional discretion of the teacher. We want you to be very cautious with the use of bookmarks, and I'm going to discuss some of that as we move forward. But it is always available to you. Do you understand what I mean when I say bookmark? That's where your student is in the instructional sequence. Any questions?
No question.
Okay, and I want to keep on doing this because these are key points in the training. So if there are questions, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Don't be afraid. If you're ahead of, or if I'm going to explain in a few minutes, I'll tell you. But if you have a question, please ask. That's why we're here.
Okay.
All right. So you have your class view screen. The first step in the process is the diagnostic assessment. The diagnostic assessment is two parts. There's diagnostic assessment part A, and then there's diagnostic assessment part B. The program automatically moves them from A to B. But from a conceptual standpoint, it's good to know the difference between the two. The first part is entry into the program. The second part is making sure that the instruction that we are about to begin is most appropriate for the unique needs of your student. Now, in diagnostic assessment part A, and by the way, as soon as you enroll your students in the program, they're all logged into diagnostic assessment part A. That's the starting point. What that allows us to do is it allows us to make a determination of where to start in failure free. There are 11 entry points in Failure Free. The program is designed to find your students' current academic English reading frustration level, ranging from beginning first grade all the way up to ACT, SAT level material. This is what we mean by our column here. These are the multicolors, and everything starts at red level. Red level is beginning first grade. So students that are testing at red level are, for all intents and purposes, almost virtual non-readers. So if you've got a lot of students who are 13, 14 years old testing red, that means that they are still being frustrated with beginning first grade material. One of the unique features of Failure Free is the notion that we are going to not only find your student's current frustration level, that's going to be the instructional starting point. And the reason why we do this is to show the students that they can do faster, they can do higher, and they can do more. So we're going to start them where in their mind they say, don't they know that I can't do this? Don't they know that I'm not capable? But with the instruction, all of a sudden they're going to show that they can do more than they thought. Now, one more thing. When you start the diagnostic prescriptive, that is not the failure-free reading program or methodology. Let me say it again. When you start the diagnostic prescriptive, you are not using the failure-free reading methodology. Please let your students understand that this assessment goes all the way up to high school or college, that it is okay for them to make mistakes, because some of them are so scared or they don't want to make mistakes. Let them know it's okay. Let them know that we expect them to make errors. Let them know as long as they try their best. That's the most important thing. So what we want to do is we want to take the tension off. We want them to try, but we don't want them to be frustrated. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
It's what I call the diagnostic preamble, or the preamble to the diagnostic. Set the stage, let them know that this is not the program, it's just trying to determine where to start. All right, so this is how the diagnostic works. When they go to the diagnostic, you will have the option, or they will have the option, to do it in English or in Spanish. The Spanish never teaches Spanish. The screen will always be English, but it gives them the comfort and security of hearing the directions and the oral component in Spanish. I don't think you'll be using that, but sometimes in the world of English language learners, or in the world of where you have students that are coming from Central America or from other Spanish-speaking countries, and they're initially referred for special ed, or this may be the first time, it gives them comfort and security. Has anybody used the Spanish-speaking component of the program?
No one in the room. No.
Okay, and I'm not surprised, because we're working with the special needs population, but it's there if you wanted it. Okay, we use what's known as a modified closed assessment. And what that is basically is it's a fill in the blank. And the way that the program is designed, it's designed to give them a very short sample of questions pertaining to red. If they pass that, if they get a passing percentage, then it automatically moves them to samples in green. Then it automatically moves them, and it keeps them going from red to green to orange A, orange B, teal A, teal B, teal C, Rebel Master 1, Rebel Master 2, Rebel Master 3, Rebel Master 4. It'll keep on going until they reach frustration level. Any questions as to that part?
No.
Once they reach the frustration level, the computer will end part 1, and it'll say here, your score has been saved. Now, if you want, you can stop now, and when the students come back, they will automatically be put into Part B of the assessment, or you can just click the blue arrow and move them immediately into Part B and get the assessment out of the way. Are there any questions as to that, and what have some of you done in the past?
Those, I don't know if there's any question, but for those of us that have been using it, did you go right into the next part?
In some cases, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I myself, once I got the diagnostic, found out exactly where they start, then, yeah, in my case, I was able to start with the pre-testing of the lesson. So, yeah, I did continue.
You continued.
That same.
Okay, so someone experienced felt they were able to just continue.
And to tell you the truth,
You continued?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Right.
I noticed my student, she was ignorantly confident. What I mean by that,
Uh-huh.
she was getting confident.
Yeah.
She didn't really know it.
Right. We're just, and wanted to continue? Uh-huh.
Just continue as whatever.
Yeah.
I was surprised that
Right.
she was confident without her knowing it.
Right.
Me seeing it evolve, and that's how I appreciated the program.
Right. So here, one of our teachers working with someone that's been utilizing the program is seeing that the students' level of confidence, they wanted to continue.
Oh, good. Here's what I would recommend. I would really recommend reserving. It only takes about 10 minutes. I would recommend just doing A and B in one setting.
Okay.
And just get it out of the way.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So is everybody clear as to the purpose of the first part, Part A, and what it does?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in the diagnostic, then, this tells you where the program's going to be on either where we're going to place them then on one of the 27 stories in the Joseph's Readers or the 36 clusters in Verbal Master. And then that will begin the second part of the assessment. That second part will allow you to determine the suitability, to check that the story or the cluster that was selected was appropriate. Now, if you want to, you can always check how that student did in Part 1. And you do that by going to the teacher tools, going to Build Report, then your screen will change. These are all of the reports, and you would go to where it says Student Diagnostic Prescriptive Report, and it pops an icon. Then it will allow you to select your name and the students you want to look for. What that will then do is it will bring up this screen, and it will show you how the student did in the first part of the assessment, where on the multicolor continuum that student placed. Any questions?
Any questions about that part? We're good? We're good.
Okay. Part B then is automatically done by the computer, and it will have determined on the basis of Part A whether it goes to Joseph's Readers, red, green, orange, or teal, or whether the student is to start at Verbal Master 1, 2, 3, and 4. If it goes to Joseph's Readers, the format never changes. You have the red level and the stories that are under red. Every story will always begin with a pretest, and every story will always end with a reading comprehension test and a post-test. So you always begin with the pretest, and please, if you've started it and you have not been green flagged, which I will explain in a moment, if you start a student, you're not green flagged, and you put them in the first lesson, finish all the lessons, and make sure you take the post-test. don't re-bookmark them midway through or on the last part of the story without doing the post-test. If they're going to have a pre-test, let them have the post-test. I cannot be more redundant on that one.
Everyone heard that
Okay.
clearly, right? Do not cut them off in the middle. Pre-test always ends with post-test. After you go through all the lessons.
Yes. And you're
Now,
going to need
let me ask you this. Did you have a question, Dr. Lakovich? Was it about
Yes.
skipping any lessons?
In reference to the lessons, how long should it take? Because it's generally, in some cases, 8 to 10 lessons per story. So how long should each lesson take before taking a post-test? Should we try to give them one lesson a day, one lesson every few days, or does it depend on the student?
I would recommend a lesson a day if they have the cognitive ability to handle it.
A lesson a day is the recommended. I guess it's about their time. I guess as we see, I think you're probably going to show us more details about what the lessons look like. You might have more feedback from the group here.
Yeah, that may be a question. That's whoever gave the question. The question is a superb question. It might be a bit premature.
Okay, so we'll see along the way.
Yes. Okay. But do you all see how the sequence, how everything is laid out in terms of sequence?
Yeah.
And every story in the Joseph's Readers, that elementary solution, red, green, orange, teal, every story follows the sequence of pre-test and post-test. The only thing that's different is some stories may instead, this one has 5 lessons. Most stories have 10 or 12 lessons before they get to the post-test.
Right.
Okay?
Oh, well, hold on, we have a question. I'm going to repeat it for you. Right. Okay. Okay. You know what? Here's what I'm thinking. I think that question is maybe more detailed for some members of the group here who don't quite get it. We have a question that we're going to maybe save it at the end that has to do with a student that was in the program last year and now they're in there this year in diagnostic. But I think I'd like you to go through all this because more than half this group is new. Okay?
Yeah. And that's a good question for the end. It's a good. These are 2 good questions, but let's put it at the end where everybody's up on the same page. Okay, that's the Joseph's Readers, the elementary level red, green, orange, teal. Verbal Master is based on the notion of clusters. You have a pre-test and a post-test for every cluster. That means 30 words. We teach in 5-word units. So you have a pre-test on the 30 words we're about to teach. Then every unit teaches 5 words. For example, this comes off of Verbal Master 1, a custom, the company, absence, abandoned, adjustment. Then there's a synonym review, a definition review, a fill-in-the-blank review, and a comprehension review. Every cluster then takes those 30 words and puts it into a cluster review story, and then there's a cluster post-test. So this is the sequence. Again, if you start in a cluster pre-test, always make sure that they finish with the cluster post-test. If you do a pre-test, do the post-test.
Got it.
Okay, so now we're in Part B. Part B is very similar to Part A in the sense that we're still going to use the modified closed assessment technique. But now what we're going to do is we are going to give the student 10 questions pertaining to the story that we are about to teach. So what we want to make sure of is that the story that we're about to teach is going to be challenging to the student. Because if the story is too easy, then the student is going to be bored. And we don't want boredom. So because we're so redundant, because we have multiple exposures in multiple contexts, because we're a multi-sensory approach where they see it, hear it, say it, do it, we're then going to see the words 14 to 50 to 60 times. We don't want them to be bored with words they already know in a context that they can already do independently or instructionally. So the antidote to boredom is putting them at a level that most people would call frustration level. In other words, it's a level that they cannot do without instruction, but we call it challenge level. So the goal of the assessment part B is to give them a 10-item fill in the blank on what we're about to teach. Any questions there?
No, we're fine.
Okay. That ends part B. And again, it's important that you understand this. We will not and do not want students being placed in our program at a story where they are entering with a pre-test score of 80% and higher. So if we pre-test, but story does, and I don't mean to be redundant, but I hope this gives closure. We give them the assessment, part A. The assessment says, I think they should be in red level. We close there. The program automatically gets the story in red level that we believe best corresponds to what they did in part A. We then start part B, where we give them 10 items, questions on what we're about to teach. At the end of that time, the program will say, did they get scores 70% or below? If the program recognizes that their score is below 70%, frustration level, the program will then automatically place them in the first part, the first lesson in the instructional sequence for that story. If, on the other hand, we see that the student has a score of 80 or 90%, showing that this story is going to be too easy, the program will notify you through the use of what we call the green flag system. It will literally suspend that student until you look at the student and you give the program permission to move that student up to the next highest level, a more challenging level. That's called green flag. Are there any questions as to how that works?
No questions at this point.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay? Now, that allows you, and you can monitor your students' performance on how they did on the second part of the assessment, part B, by going to what's called the Build Reports Detailed Software Lesson Report. So when you go there and you click on Detailed Software Lesson, what that means is this. Every time your student clicks an answer or a response, that is recorded. And the computer then identifies the student's response as being correct or incorrect. You can see their daily, you can see their entire progress from the moment they started in the program. You can eyeball that information and see whether or not they are doing well or having difficulty simply by looking for bold items. So, in this case, I click on Detailed Software Lesson Report for this student. I then go to the report options. I select my name as the teacher. I then select the student I'm interested in, and my screen changes. Now,
Hey, Dr. Lakovich, I'm not sure if we're looking at the screen you want us to see. Okay.
what does it say on the top?
You're connected to the Eileen session. It's blank. Okay, now, look at detailed student. Did you just move it?
That's performance. That was incorrect.
Now it says audio detail.
Let's give it a second.
Hold on. It still just says audio detail. What should
Okay, I've got Jeff again. Hang on.
Hi, I'm watching it too, and I'm actually seeing his screen. I'm not seeing something else.
Okay, we're not seeing the screen.
This is start. Hit start. Yeah.
Right up here?
Yeah.
Okay, wait a sec. It says sharing, should I click that? Oh, okay. All right. We're back. The screen says, look at detailed student pre-test performance.
Okay. All right. Okay. And what that allows you to do is, and I know you can't probably see the verbiage, so don't worry about that. Can you see my mouse move, though? Okay. What it's showing me right now is the pre-test data for this particular student. And what it shows are the 10 questions that were asked of the student for this story. The middle column tells the correct answer, and then the far right column tells the answer chosen. If it's bold, B-O-L-D, it's incorrect. Just visually looking at this, what can we say about the difficulty level of this story for this student?
I think from what we're seeing, it looks like 5 answers were incorrect. Right?
Which means the student had a pre-test score of 50%.
Right.
So what would we say about the suitability? Well, most people would say this is too hard. What do we say about the suitability for this student under the failure-free reading implementation rules?
What do you think? Appropriate what to begin? Probably. We're getting some consensus appropriate to begin here.
That's right, because the score is 70% or below. Okay, then we go to what's known as the criterion reference test. These are paper and pencil tests that now that we've determined that the story is suitable, now you go to one more set of assessments. So I strongly suggest that you create a folder for each one of your students for the criterion reference test. Now, a criterion reference test is a curriculum-based assessment. If you're doing Common Core, yes?
Yeah.
Then you need to be able to document that you're doing curriculum-based assessments. So you are very compatible doing Common Core and failure-free. And criterion reference test measures a student's performance in respect to a specific domain. In other words, we're going to look at 3 areas of additional measurement. Now, you get your criterion reference test by going back and going onto your teacher toolbox. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And going to where it says electronic library, or you also have a print version of that electronically in your teacher kit. So you can go either way, whichever is comfortable for you. But you always have access to the electronic library. When you click on the electronic library, it will ask you to choose what print version you want to go for. In this case, we're going to Joseph's Readers Print. Once I select that, the screen will change. And it will change, it will change and it will show you all of the material that is available to you for that story. CRT stands for Criterion Reference Test. There are sheets for the student and CRT sheets for the teacher. Then you can download your teacher manual if you want. You have your independent activities, your instructional reader. If it's available to you in print, it's also available to you in the electronic library. Are there any questions as to that?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. So in this case, here is our red, green, orange, teal, Joseph's Readers. Here is the Criterion Reference Test. I click on student or teacher, and then it will show me that I am going to measure 3 areas: auto reading, silent reading, and word recognition. This is what the Criterion Reference Test, WR, stands for word recognition. So we're going to measure what that student knows in keywords used in the story prior to ever starting instruction. That's the pretest. Are there any questions as to what we're doing?
All those words are presented on one field.
All those words are presented to the student just the way we're seeing it now?
Yeah. That is an excellent question. That's the practitioner in you. The answer is yes. So you would have 2 sheets. You would have a sheet on your lap, and you would have the sheet that you would present to the student. When you present it to the student, now listen to me, mother hens.
We're listening.
This is not a teaching exercise. What you are collecting in your Criterion Reference Test is what's known as baseline data. Baseline data means this: what does that student know with absolutely no assistance? So even if you think they know that, you don't go into an instructional component. So you don't say, look at the first letter, what's AR, what's the K. They either know the word or they don't know. So if they don't know it, you go to the next word, the next word, the next word. And you move quickly through. You tally the number of words that they know, and you put it here as the pretest. When they're done with the post-test online, you then give them the post-test for word recognition. So if you're going, the nice thing about this is if you want to graph growth, if you want to put this in charts on the wall, if you want to show them how they've done, this is a tangible that you can show the student. Has anybody used the pre and the post-test Criterion Reference Test, and has it helped to show the student their growth?
Okay, we're seeing some people saying yes, they've used it, and it does show growth. I get to share it with the student. Yeah.
Have any of you used it with a physically impaired student who is unable to point, who needs to use an eye-gaze system for you to be able to see what their answer is?
No, no one in here. No.
Have you had any cases such as that?
Yes, but that yes, and it requires the creativity and the imagination of the teacher. One vehicle that you could do if you wanted to is, and I'm just thinking out of the box, but I've seen it done. It takes a little bit longer time, but you could take every word that's on that list. You could put it in a large, put it on a 3x5 card. You could then put the card in front of them rather than point and see if they can recognize the word.
Yeah, just isolate the word.
Right.
Oh, right. The question is, are these words on the separate cards anyway?
Not everyone.
Not everyone? Okay. Okay. We have a question. Yeah, Mr. Go ahead. We have another question. I'm going to repeat it for you.
I did it with nonverbal. And I guess I'm getting better, but when they look like either each word and right, very good, going well, just go for it.
Okay, so you have dealt with a child who's nonverbal, but you had a sense of whether or not the child knew the word. Okay.
Yeah, nothing, remember this. Let me make this point. The key ingredient for the success of the failure-free reading program is contained in the room that I am speaking to. No one can replace you, the teacher. No one can replace you for your innovation, your creativity, and what you have to do to make it work.
We hear you.
Okay. All right. So the second criterion reference test is OR, or oral reading. And again, this is a 60-second time test. And what you're just doing is you're asking them to read aloud as many words as they can in a 60-second period. Again, they either get it right or wrong. You tally the number of words at the pre-test and then the post-test.
Got it. I'm going to ask for the sidebar to kind of, it's hard to hear with the phone. Thank you. Okay. We're ready, Dr. Lockwood. Yes.
Okay? And the last is the silent reading. So this is a modified closed technique. You can give it to all of your kids at one time if you want, and they just select the word out of the three choices that best fits. Again, pre-test, post-test. So you will always have 3 pre-test and 3 post-test, paper and pencil for every story, or the same holds true for pre-test and post-test and Bubble Master. Are there any questions as to what I mean by the criterion reference test?
No, we're all fine.
Okay. So the key points, just real quickly. You check the assessment scores before instruction. Please do that. This program, especially for your population, is not a electronic-based program. It uses online instruction to reinforce your instruction. So you have to pre-teach. You have to do what I'm going to show you in a moment before they get to the computer. If you just put them on the computer without monitoring their performance, we're going to get into a world of hurt. And I'm going to show you an example of that as to how that can occur unintentionally. So it's constant. I really ask you to, even if it's weekly, monitor their performance. Go into their detailed software lesson report and just eyeball to make sure that they're not getting everything bold. Are there any questions on that?
Listen, I'm glad, I don't know if there are questions, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I just want to share just for a second that last year, and it's a teacher that's not teaching it anymore, I think they may have retired, was unaware of the students in the class and what their responses were when they were on the follow up, on the computer. So if the only part that seemed to be like in the forefront of the teacher's mind was the direct instruction part that I know you're about to get to, and then they kind of just let the student go, thinking, okay, now they're on the computer, but never really going back to see what they were up to or what they were doing, and I felt the fidelity was questionable. Did you agree?
Janice, I know I should. I know I shouldn't say this, and if my wife were here, I'd be in real trouble. But if I were there, I'd kiss you right on the cheek for what you just said.
We did go to the same college. You were there before me. Remember that?
Because yes, I do. Because here's the thing, really, gang. The software is a two-edged sword. The first is to reinforce what you've done with them in the pre-teaching. But the second part is to use it as an informal assessment to make sure that what you taught in the pre-teaching actually took. So you might have thought, for example, that they understood what you were saying. But then they got to the software where they're working independently, and all of their responses are bold, which means they're wrong. And had you seen that day or within a couple of days, you could have rectified to go back to that notion of reading is relating. Something prevented them from relating to that in such a way that they could then work on the computer by themselves.
Would you recommend Dr. Lockovitz, because we know that pretty much everyone here at least has a paraprofessional in their classroom with them. Some cases might be more than one. So even if the paraprofessional is the one that's overseeing, the few students that are on the computer, that person has to be made to understand what a bold answer means, that it's wrong. I mean, that communication needs to happen among the adults in the room, even if it's not the teacher, who might then be with another group.
Yeah, one of the beauties of the program is it's very easy to use. And the instruction is guided, as you soon see. And paraprofessionals can do it under your guidance. But they do need to be monitored. And they do need to and everybody has to monitor students' performance. So I think that there has to be a mechanism on a weekly basis to just quickly go in there and eyeball that student detailed performance data to make sure that we're not seeing the field of bold.
Good. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, then I want you to look for the green flag notification if you have it. You'll always see that in class view. I want to make sure that you utilize those criterion reference tests. And remember again, always give the post-test, both online and criterion reference test. Any points, if we get this built in going forward, our life is going to be so much easier. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, you can always edit the bookmark on your student. There's an edit bookmark session. Once you click edit bookmark, the program then will show you a screen like this that says Diagnostic, Joseph's Readers, Life Skills, Verbal Master. If you choose Joseph's Readers, it will then ask what level, red, green, orange, teal. If you choose that, if you choose red, it'll then say what story from the 7 stories available. If you choose a story, it will then ask you where do you want to put them, pre-test, lesson 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason why this is important, you might have found, okay, when you were monitoring them in their board, something didn't go right in lesson 3. So rather than push them to lesson 4, you might say, hey, you know what? I think I might want to just rework lesson 3 one more time. So you can rebookmark them. Once you do that, the computer will ask, do you want to change? You click yes. then it'll say, I have changed it. Are you sure that's correct? You choose yes, and all of a sudden they will be rebookmarked. Is there any question as to how you rebookmark?
I think so far we're good.
Okay. All right. So how is it taught? As I said, we use a three-stage instructional procedure. 15 to 20 minutes pre-teaching, 15 to 20 minutes software, 15 to 20 minutes paper and pencil reinforcement activities. The program, now, once the kids understand, and the routine never changes, after that, they're in it about 3 or 4 days, they know where to go. I really want to be able to see if I can to get you to where you don't have any more than 3 instructional groups. Now, you may have more if you have your kids all being self-contained, but usually we try to keep it in 3 groups. So if we can, we try to pair kids together. So if a kid tests, if you have one kid testing green and one kid testing red, you may be able to pool them together into one story. And I'll work with you on ability grouping. I gotta tell you, y'all are so unique because you have such an intense population that if you want to just, if you've got 8 kids and you want to keep all of them independently, you can do that too in a self-contained with your teaching assistant. You've got options available, and I can show you any options based on your needs. But this 3 instructional procedure is important. You do the pre-teaching, then it's reinforced on the software, and then it goes to the paper and pencil. Everything that you teach in pre-teaching is identical to what they're going to see in software, which is identically going to be reinforced in paper and pencil. We're always teaching when we're done 1 paragraph minimum in that sequence. Is there any questions right now as to how the sequence at least is set up?
We have a question. I'm going to repeat it for you.
I know that I have a laptop card this year, right? And I have to start first because I want to schedule. That's no problem.
Okay.
And I don't order like
Okay.
laptop.
Okay, I think that's a really good question. I have a feeling I know what his answer is. The order that you're talking about is the teacher-led instruction first, then the computer, the online part, and then the paper pencil reinforcement. Our question is, just due to some scheduling issues at the site where they they have carts, laptop carts, is it a problem to start with the computer piece, then go what, to teacher?
Either one.
I mean, I guess it's about the importance of the order, and I have a feeling there might be a problem with not starting with the teacher-led piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me answer the question, and let me be emphatic. Given the level of severity of the students that you're dealing with, you absolutely, positively must always start with the pre-teaching. You cannot put them in the software or the paper and pencil activities without the pre-teaching. Now, that means that you may have to stagger your starting. A lot of times what we do is we have a 3-day, what we call a 3-day instructional implementation, where day 1, you get the group that you're going to work with, and that you work exclusively that day with the pre-teaching. The other 2 or the other students that are not involved in that, in that teaching for that day are then given other activities that are totally unrelated and failure-free, but will keep them occupied. Then on day 2, the students that you did the pre-teaching with will then start at the software. You will then start with group 2 in the pre-teaching while those other students are at the software. On day 3, the students that started in day 1 are at the paper and pencil reinforcement activity. The students that you start on day 2 are now at the software, and the students that are on day 3 that are just beginning are with you. It may be that because of the severity of your group, it may take you 5 days to start. But every student has to be pre-taught with instruction guided by you or your teaching assistant before they ever go to the next component.
Okay, I think, Dr. Lakovich, that was a good suggestion about how to manage with the reality of the issue. And then, Mr. Townley, you wanted to add something to that?
I had a suggestion and then a question. Does the order matter for the other two activities, the computer and the independent work?
Okay.
And based on what he was saying, I kind of do something like that with my kids when we work on it. Like, I have one group that's there blocked because of our time is the computer first, but I don't start them on the computer so you're free until the next day. Or
I see.
They don't under instruction.
Okay.
Like later that time for the next day, they'll do the computer for what we did, but the others all have their instruction before they ever touch the computer.
Right. So we're totally understanding and in agreement that the pre-teaching with the teacher must come first. Is the order of the online and the paper pencil reinforcement just as critical that you recommend online versus the independent?
Well, first let me start by first telling the group, especially my veterans, how appreciative I am of your comments and the statements that are being made. I really like your candor, and I thank you very much. I'm going to tell you my honest opinion. My honest opinion should be that you don't violate the sequence for this reason. The paper and pencil activities are still difficult, and they need to have that reinforcement by the computer before they get to that third part. I think that going from 1 to 3 to 2 is going to be too difficult for some students. Now, again, I allow you to have individual, no one knows your students better than you do. But if you see that the kids are leaving you and then they're going to 3 and they're getting frustrated, it's probably because they should have been to 2 before they got to 3.
I think everyone here is in agreement with you, and I think the plan is to follow what the plan is. And then if you have to make adjustments like you described, like the 2 folks here thought they could adjust, it's still trying to get to and sticking with step 1, step 2, step 3 in that order.
And can I make a point here? And by the way, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do it because I'm appreciative of what you all are doing. I've got a gift, and Janice, remind me when we're done. I'm going to give it to everybody. It is a software enhancement that I'm going to give it to you for free. I know Janice's ears picked up on that. But that's at the end. Just remind me of the supplemental material that goes with Failure Free. That said, let me also share with you this. You've got kids that are all in self-contained classrooms. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I believe that failure-free reading should be the most dominant feature of your language literacy program. No program should supersede the importance of failure-free. There is no other program out there, if you're dealing with language literacy and word recognition, that's going to supersede the importance of failure-free. And that said, I think failure-free should be implemented. You should start with, I've got to do a minimum of 1 hour of failure-free a day and get my 3 stations in before I do anything else in the area of language literacy.
I think everyone here agrees with that for sure.
So we have to make sure that these kids aren't getting failure-free every other day, or they're only getting 2 out of the 3 stations a day. They need all 3. And here's the thing, gang. If you give that to me, I'm going to give you as a bonus supplemental software that you will be able to use that will allow these kids to further reinforce and further learn more stories. In other words, I'm going to give you access to 18 additional stories that will correspond to the needs of your kids that they can do independently at no charge to you.
Okay, that's awesome.
Thank you.
No, really, that's awesome. And then, no, that's fantastic. And when we're all done with your whole presentation, we'll have a little time left over to network about a few other things here at the group. Okay, keep going. I'm writing.
Okay? And the reason why I'm doing this is because you are at the forefront. I got to tell you the truth, gang. I'm getting old in my life. I've done this for 25 years, okay? And I'm tired of being beat up on a daily basis for people that say, well, my kids aren't going to like failure free. It's too boring. Or, I'm going to do something else. And the truth of the matter is that for your population, there is no finer program for those kids. It's a lifeline. And if you work with me, and I know it's not easy to teach sometimes. I know I know that there are some of you that are going into the second year of it and say, if I hear this story one more time, I'm jumping out the window. I know that. And that's why you have to have headphones on the software or you really will jump out the window. But for my veterans, when you think, what are the alternatives? You've all tried structured phonics. You've all tried the other stuff. And these kids, yeah, they showed a little, but they're not showing the growth that Failure Free is producing for them because it's what they need. And I know some of you, though, are now at the point, well, what do I do when the kids are done with Red? And what else can I do? That's why I'm going to give you that software. I'm going to give you some other things that you can do to further make them happy and make you happy as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we love it.
And can I have my teachers, my combat veterans, would you please share, just for a moment, just share with them how you're getting by the redundancy factor, but are you not seeing growth in your kids? Just give me like 2 minutes to jumpstart the other people who say, this is the most boring thing since sliced bread.
Okay, I have a few hands up. If they speak loud enough and you can hear it, tell me, otherwise I'll repeat it. Let's go to that first. Right? Right? Okay, so did you hear that? The redundancy of the program is the key part as to why they're growing and showing the growth they're showing. That's one comment. Let's get another one. Go ahead.
Actually, I had the opportunity to do that. I have a student that was on language math, another big vocabulary. And we went through part of those words. He got it. The next month or so, he didn't remember. He's been Red Bull, he's red, and that's late. Actually reading and hunger to read more.
Okay.
And he's pronouncing the words on his own, read, and he's very excited about it.
So we have a student who was in another program, Language Master, 1 month, and then the next month didn't really retain, from what I heard, is in the red level and is hungry for reading, to continue to read. Just like a whole different, sense of interest in reading. Let me get another comment, if you're okay with that. Go ahead,
Yes, one more. I love it. Thank you.
I think the redundancy would be more confident in getting that classification. It's not to be boring because it's getting that reinforcement or recognized first. So that built-in reinforcement is so confident.
Yep.
I don't see any of this.
Okay, so one of our program specialists who goes to more than one location is seeing that the redundancy is what's actually building in the reinforcement that you're describing, and increasing the student confidence level in wanting to read and seeing it not boring at all.
And I have one more question. All right, one.
Did we take one more comment?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
I had one more. Oh, that was similar. Same thing. Mr. Taylor.
Okay, and I have one more issue that I want to discuss, and I'll move right on. And that is the notion, I can't answer this. Your staff has to do it. You mentioned it. It's the whole issue of retention. One of the things that I continue to hear about the benefit of failure free is that when it comes to Thanksgiving and Christmas or the summer and the kids leave, they're retaining a whole lot more than they ever did in the past. Is there anyone there that could illustrate or demonstrate that they are seeing this retention that they didn't see in the prior to?
Okay, I just saw a couple of head nods of the folks that have been involved from the beginning. Any comment about that? We're going to get one?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, every one of my students, not one of them from the level, and some of them even, has continued that improvement.
After a break?
After a break, like you can notice even there was no loss of information. That, maybe there was a difference, maybe a point here and there on like a pretest or whatever.
Right. So we're not seeing regression. We're not seeing.
In the past, you things that you didn't really have any background to go on. You're like, okay, well, where were they?
Right.
If you would see the improvement or you see actual progression, you don't see that with this.
Okay, so did you hear that? That with other programs, yes, we've seen some regression, but not seeing it with failure free.
All right. Now, I'm going to continue now because I know time is of the essence, but I love you all. Thank you. So the next part then is a key instructional point is remember you all are significant. Remember that one thing that you cannot use with our kids is sarcasm. You cannot be flippant because our kids are literal learners in a figurative world. So you have to be very cautious. Don't use sarcasm. Make sure you're speaking in concrete, specific terms. Make sure that what you're saying verbally matches what you're saying non-verbally. Your message has to be congruent. So when we get to the teacher instruction, and this is all, by the way, very Common Core friendly. Everything starts with the teacher stage of previewing. So in the beginning, the teacher is the dominant factor. You set the stage. You are a language teacher first, a reading teacher second, a content teacher third, and you cannot change the order. So you're going to set the stage for that lesson. Then you're going to use modeling, so the student is listening to you. You are going to read that part of the story to them. Then you are going to ask factual questions, inferential questions. You are going to try to expand their base. Some of your kids may not be able to do many of the inferential questions, but it doesn't mean you don't try to do that. Then you'll get to where it's their turn to start to do some oral responses and the instructional reader. Everything is based on the goal that you have to set the stage. You assume nothing. You make sure that they can relate to it. You build on their base. This is absolutely essential here. So you're going to preview the material, then there's the listening component, then there is the presenting component, then there is the reading component, and then there is the review component. In the preview, as I said, you are the language teacher first, the reading teacher second, the content teacher third. You're designed to bridge the gap. You're designed to build their language. Remember this, input precedes output. Receptive language has to be developed before they have expressive language. So everything in your fiber is to get it into their system. Also remember this, there is a developmental lag between what they can understand and what they can express. So don't be upset if they cannot regurgitate it or cannot do it instantaneously. Never give up. Always believe in the capacity of the learner to learn. Get as much into their system, every fiber of their being. Reinforce the vocabulary throughout the day. Language teacher first, reading teacher second, content teacher third. Then you'll read aloud. So, today we're going to talk about Orange A, second grade, going on a train ride, lesson 1. Today we're going to read a story about a person going on a train ride. Let's listen as the person describes the train he's about to take. If it's in quotation marks, it's the way that you are to present it to the student. You do not have to be a robot. It just means as long as you get the gist, that's what counts. Then you go over the new words of particular interest. You're going to be introduced to many words in the story. You may know some of them. If you do, that's great. If you don't worry. You'll be able to read this. Trust me, you're going to do well. Relax. Let's go over a few of the words. Don't be afraid to tell me you're not sure what some of the words mean. That's what I'm here for, to help. It's impossible to read something you don't understand, so please ask me to explain any word you're not sure of. Are you ready? Let's begin. What does the word train mean? Now, do y'all have access to whiteboards?
Whiteboards? I'm going to say yes, or mostly everybody. Yes.
I strongly recommend to preview the lesson you're about to teach before you teach the kids. Go to Google Images. Go to YouTube if you want. Search under train. Do images of what trains look like. Do images of videos on trains. The more you can expand their base, you're expanding their background knowledge. Don't assume anything. Read their eyes. The eyes are the mirror of the mind. Then you would do the same thing for grandmother and grandfather, and the word myself, and ride and visit. And then it says here in caps, this is directions to you. Define each word or phrase. Help them with words they don't understand. Always give examples that are concrete and directly related to their experiences. Are there any questions as to how this is set up and what I mean by the failure-free environment?
We got it.
Okay, then you would read this part of the story. I'm going on a train ride. I'm going on a train ride by myself. I'm going on a train ride by myself to visit my grandmother and grandfather. Simple, positive, active, declarative. First person, narrative. Why? Because that's the easiest for our kids to understand. Then let's say, let's spend a few minutes about what we've just learned. What is the person going to do? Who can tell me what the person is going to do? Where is the person going? Then we do inferential. And we say, okay, now that we know what and who, I'm going to ask you some questions that don't have a right or wrong answer. They're based on your opinion. By the way, this is Bloom's taxonomy. This, again, is Common Core. Hang on. Hello, I'm in a workshop. Yeah, but I'm still a good half hour, 45 minutes. Bye. That was the missus, gang.
Okay.
All right. So now, this is Bloom's taxonomy. This is asking him to think beyond, inferential thinking. Why do you think the person is going to visit his grandparents? How do you think the person feels about going alone? Then you go into the read again, the redundancy. So the key instructional points, you build on their base. Input precedes output. You're setting the stage. The language teacher first. Expanding the background knowledge. You're previewing the material. Are there any questions as to how that works right there?
No, we're good.
Okay, and then you would do things like, okay, now I'm going to read this part of the story, and I'm going to pause, and then you tell me the word that best fits. So in this case, I say, I am going on a train, and they stop, and they say, why? Great, I'm going on a train ride. I'm going on a train ride by myself. Terrific, I'm going on a train ride by myself. I'm going to visit my grandmother and my grandfather. So you're being redundant. Then I'm going to break out of here for a second, and I'm going to show you how to break out. I'm going to end right now, but I want to know what slide that was. okay? And I'm going to end the show temporarily so that I can go here. I'm going to go to failure-free reading. That has the screen changed.
Yes, it's the home page.
That's right. And I'm going to log in on my password. I'm going to enter. Has the screen changed again?
Yes.
And now I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to the electronic library. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to Joseph's Readers Print. I'm then going to go to Orange, going on a train ride. And I'm going to go to where it says Instructional Reader. I'm going to click on that. It will have been downloaded. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to go on a train ride. It now opens up, and this is the instructional reader that I would then either put on my whiteboard or I'd put in front of the student. And I'd say, let's see, is there anybody here that thinks that they can read this sentence here? If they can't, don't worry about it. You help them. But now all of a sudden they're being asked to see the print, and this is where now they're starting to visualize what they've heard to the graphics. Now, why is it this way? I made this ugly for two reasons. Number one, there are no pictures here because kids at this age equate the absence of pictures with older material. So it reinforces dignity, pride, and self-respect. The second is because there are no pictures, it forces them to focus on the individual words. So they're getting a one-on-one correspondence. Is there any question as to how that works?
Nope.
Okay. So now that they're done with that instructional reader and I'm done with my sequence and I've done my pre-teaching, what I'm then going to do is I'm going to now go to the software. As soon as they leave me, they can go into the kiosk. Now you see this button here. Does the screen show the orange kiosk button?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to click on the kiosk. As my
Please select your teacher name from the list.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go there, and they know that their teacher's name is Joseph Lockley.
Please select your name from the list.
Okay? And now they're going to scroll through, and I listed a person called Orange Online Lesson Part A. They would just find their name. Does that make sense?
Yes.
When they click on it,
Please click on the green button to start your lesson.
it will take them to where they are. Everything on the screen talks, and right now we are live.
Welcome to the Joseph's Readers pre-teaching lesson. The pre-teaching lesson shows the words that you will see in this part of the story. We will introduce the words to you, define them, and spell them. Becoming familiar with these words will help you improve your language, and improving your language will help you become a better reader. The first important vocabulary word for this story is train. T-R-A-I-N. Train. A connected row of railroad cars. Please click on the forward arrow to continue with this lesson, or click on the backward arrow to hear this word again.
We're here, Dr. Lockovich.
Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry. I had to step up for a second. I didn't get the question.
Okay, no, we're just watching the screen.
Okay, so what we do then is we introduce the vocabulary. Then once the vocabulary is done, it will then put it into sentence. I am going on a train ride. So that is the first part of the pre-teaching lesson. Are there any questions as to how this works?
The only question is, are we able to slow down the speech at all, or is it that one?
One speed, or can it be slowed down, or is it just about repeating, which is the back arrow?
And in this part, it's one speed.
One speed. Okay.
Okay. Then I'm going to leave this part, and this is only for, the program would do this automatically. Please call your name. But I can't do it, so it's just for, they would then go to the second part of the online.
Please click on the green button to start your lesson. Welcome to Joseph's Reader's Talking Book. Jeff, please press the play page button to have the page read to you. Click on any word to hear that word said again. When you are ready to continue, please press the forward arrow.
Talking book didn't show up. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hold on. Here's the talking book. I'm sorry, it was just hidden behind, I just panicked. But again, everything on the screen talks, so they don't have to know how to read nor to learn how to read. Everything here, every word there can be clicked on.
Going. Train. Ride.
We're going to further reinforce this.
I am going on a train ride. Click the play page button to have the sentence read to you. Click the arrow to continue this story. I am.
This is why you need headphones.
A train ride.
But we're having focus on the end of
going on a train ride by myself.
And then one more time.
I am going on a train ride. I am going on a train ride by myself. I am going on a train ride by myself to visit my grandmother and my grandfather.
Now we're going to go into an actual word recognition activity.
Use the mouse to click on the word asked for. Click on the repeat sound button if you need to hear the word again. Click on the OK button to record your choice. Please select the word going.
Now they have to find the word going. They click on the word. It shows in the box. If that's the word they want, they click on OK.
Terrific.
And that's recorded.
The word train.
Now if I make a mistake, I click here.
I'm sorry, that was not correct. You chose ride, but I asked for train. Please select the word.
There are 10 word recognition activities here. Now, I'm going to leave this part and share the third part of the online software for every lesson. And again, the program automatically goes to
your name from the list.
And that would be Orange Online Lesson Part 3.
Please click on the green button to start your lesson. Welcome to the Joseph's Reader's Reinforcement Activities. This is your chance to see how well you've done. Let's see how well you recognize the words that you've read in this lesson. Click on the word to find the best answer. Click on the OK box to record your choice.
So now notice, everything on the screen is identical to what they've heard, which is identical to what they've seen. So they click here and they do one-word responses.
Great job. Great job. Fantastic. I'm sorry, your answer was not correct. Would you please try again? Excellent.
Then they go to phrases, then they'll go to alphabetical order, then they will continue. I'm going to do this so that you can see what the reinforcement activities look like. I'm going to get them right.
Excellent.
And it's always either neutral or positive. They'll never be beeped, X'd, or red marked.
Fantastic. 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 Terrific. Now you have the opportunity to practice.
Then they go into a spelling component.
This lesson. Don't be nervous. You'll do just fine. Please click on the word you would like.
Click on the word.
Then click on ride. Ride. R-I-D-E. Ride. Study the spelling. If you need to hear and see the word spelled again, click on the word. When you are ready to spell the word, click on continue.
So they click on the word.
Please spell the
The
word.
screen is in alphabetical order. They can do it from the screen or from their keyboard.
To spell the word. Click the OK button to check your spelling. Excellent. When you've finished with the spelling exercise, click the skip button to move on.
Now, the reason why I put that, spelling is very demanding for some of the kids. You may only want one, and then allow them to skip. That's your call. When they skip that,
Good job. You completed all the activities for this lesson. Next, you'll be taken to a screen that will allow you to review the passage for this lesson. Congratulations, you finished all the activities for this lesson. Take a moment to read this page. If you have a printer and you'd like to read it to someone else, press the print button. When you're done with this page, press the forward arrow to go back to the main menu.
so if you want, you can press the print button, and you can have them take that home for that day. Has anybody done this, or do they wait? What do you do on this part? Anybody?
Just a question. Anyone done that part? You mean the printing and... I don't think anyone here has done that? Yeah. Jamie, you wanted to say?
Well, the part that I like about this team is when they're reading it themselves, you can put on and take the stamp one.
Yeah.
So
We were just saying...
the print is just people.
Right. The print is kind of like maybe, I guess, just to take home for whatever you're reading.
And I'll save it and just send it in an email to the family. So they
I mean, it could be part of communication for those that, communicate that way. And we were saying, Dr. Lakovich,
Yes.
clicking on the word, I guess, means it gets read to them, right? If they forget the word?
Yes, but in this case, this print, I love whoever said the notion of maybe sending it electronically to the parents so that they can see what's happening at home. And I do want to ask a question. Are you getting any parent feedback that the parents are seeing changes in confidence and ability?
Any parent feedback from any of the teachers working with the program to share?
my parents.
Some parents, I'm going to quote, have seen a drastic difference academically with their children. Some parents.
That I'm working with right now.
Seeing a real increase in vocabulary development. Right? Language is also has shown increase in putting sentences together and using it. Almost sounds like it's being generalized. I don't want to say that.
Yes.
Being generalized.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's almost like each one of these little individual pieces, someone just kind of showed almost like a mountain. It comes up, it just comes together.
Yeah, you see the results.
You see the results across the board. Yeah. Very positive feedback.
Thank you. I am so proud of everyone in this room. Okay, so this is the end of the computer lesson for that day. So that's the end of station 2, the software, and then they would go to station 3. Now in station 3, again, I'm going to. I just want to show you how easy it is to log in. So I'm going to go back to logging in. I'm going to put my name in there. I'm going to go back to my program. Has the screen changed accordingly?
Yes.
I'm going to go to the electronic library because it's so easy for me. I'm going to click on Joseph's Reader's Print. I'm going to go to Orange, and now I want to show you the independent activities. So I'll click here. It's downloaded, and I go here. And do you have the independent activities right there?
Yes. The orange level going on a train ride.
Yep. Every lesson has 8 of the same formatted activities. So here's going on a train ride. This is black and white. You can print as many as you want. Lesson 1. I'm going to rotate it so that y'all can see it. Let me pull it out. Okay, and again, here's that same thing. They write and they choose the word that best fits. So it is a one-word response. That's the first format. Then I go to lesson 2. Again, let me just rotate this. Now it's the same thing, but now it is phrases. Then they go to lesson 3, which is alphabetical order, using only the words that were introduced in that lesson. Then they go to what I see is a very important lesson called going on unscrambling sentences. So many of our kids don't know the importance of word order, so this teaches the importance of word order. Can any of the teachers talk about how their kids have responded to this and any benefits that they've seen from this particular activity?
Any comments? Yeah, we have one.
Actually, right off the bat, my favorite section of most things.
Okay.
You bring it together, wrap it up. I saw this part.
Okay. So one of our teachers saying this is his favorite part of the independent activities. You feel this part brings it all together? Of all 3? Okay, and another comment?
The only thing I'll say is not even disagreeing with that, but this is where you see the most frustration from the students, though.
Okay.
When they come to you with the most questions, the most need for help, and the computer kind of leads them through the lesson.
Yeah.
But if those independent activities with art groups, it's not as independent as, for one of them.
Right.
So they still need a lot of guidance, even if it's not helping them with everything. So there's a lot of frustration.
Okay, so there's some frustration with this activity.
Okay, and I want to start. That's a great
Wait, one
comment.
second. Go ahead, Dr. Lakovich, and then we wanted to add a comment. Go ahead. Dr. Lakovich.
Okay. You couldn't be more on target with that. This is an activity that, as the cognitive ability of your student decreases, the level of difficulty for this proportionately increases. This is a very difficult activity for some of your more cognitively challenged students. And I'm so glad you said this, because I would probably say that it might not be an independent activity for them. For them, I would do this individually with the teacher assistant if they can, and if it is too frustrating, I would delete it.
Okay, I think that's a good recommendation. We have some agreement about how this particular activity maybe is used. Go ahead.
Because when I first started using it, I didn't know it was an independent activity.
Right.
I use it as part of my team, and I got excellent results.
Okay.
I didn't know it was
Right. So one of our teachers, by mistake, didn't see it as independent and used it as direct instruction.
Direct instruction, and then I saw much go on from there after I went through initially.
Okay.
So
We had another.
I can't tell you. Yeah.
Okay, let me just hear another teacher's comment.
I think you should bring up the graders also, and that's,
Yes.
and I think one of my friends to my girls, and what I had to do is they didn't get the concept.
Right.
I had to put on an index card and kind of
I see.
but now this year, but without anything.
Okay, so beautiful recommendation for one of her autistic students is put each one of the words on cards, and basically they manipulated the cards. And now, this is someone that's been doing the program, this is year 3, so do you do that now for certain students still? Oh, so they kind of get it after, so you started out this activity as more of a manipulative way as opposed to just rewriting. Okay. That makes sense. Went up one grade level? Okay, so that was a good way to sort of, as you talked about up front, creatively figure out how to make adjustments with the kids that you have and still accomplish the same thing.
And let me the last teacher who just made that comment, that is a great illustration of what I also said about input preceding output and receptive language. There's a delay between receptive and expressive. It took that student, because of the disability levels of your student, it took them almost a year to almost 2 years before they could do this independently.
Actually, it took her a year, but now you don't do that for that student. Right.
And this is higher order thinking. This is higher order thinking, so you're doing Common Core as well.
Yep, we have one more comment that we want to add.
Yes, I have a question. I'm going to just get it. Okay. The illustrated reader. At what point are they supposed to use that? The reason why I'm asking is, okay, you say this part is an independent activity. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean they do not use the illustrated reader? We have the kit with each individual reader, for each color. So are they, when it comes down to this independent activity, does that mean they're not use their readers at this point and they just should be working just from the paper only?
The independent reader, yeah. Let me make the point. Every lesson consists of 3 parts. It is a multi-sensory approach. The first part is the teacher-led instruction, because we're teaching a paragraph. We follow.
Yes.
Then the computer reinforces that paragraph. Then they go to the independent activities for that one lesson. And these are the independent activities for that lesson. That's the paper and pencil, tactile, kinesthetic, 15 to 20 minutes activities that end a lesson.
So I think your question, I want to make sure I'm clear, Dr. Lakovich, the question that I think you were asking, do they have the reader there with them during these activities?
Right, exactly.
I think the answer is no, but I'll let you answer, Dr. Lakovich.
The answer is no. It's not necessary, and it is too premature. Let me finish these independent activities, and then let me show you the last part, and that should answer her concern.
Okay.
So the next activity then is, again, the rotation is matching. Then the next activity is illustrating the paragraph that they've learned. Then the next activity is illustration of two of the words. And the last, and this is a word search. Some kids have difficulty, some kids like it. The teachers, this is a judgment call. It may be too much coming at them visually. You may not want to use this for some kids. Others may like it. And then the last is a short answer. For the kids that are ready to do short answers. So it's short answer, It's a word search. It's a word illustration. It is a sentence illustration. It is a matching. It is an unscrambled sentence. It is alphabetical order. It is going on it is fill in the blank phrase and fill in the blank alphabetical, fill in the blank one word. That format never changes for each lesson. Okay?
Yeah.
So, now, let me just show you. Let me go back here if I can. Great, I'm still in my electronic library. That would be the end of one single lesson. The pre-teaching, led by the teacher, the software, and then the paper and pencil reinforcement. When you start the next day, you would then do the exact same thing. You would go to the illustrated reader here that we've had in the past, and here is the end of day one. Does that make sense to everybody in the room?
Yes. Yeah, so that's one whole lesson.
That's one whole lesson. In day two, we're going to review what we taught, and we're going to add a new paragraph. In day three, we're going to review what we did in day 1, 2, and 3. In day 4, we're going to do that. Does this make sense to everybody?
I think the answer is yes, right? We see how the lessons build up on the same story. Right?
So now, in this lesson, we will continue until they finish lesson 10. Look at what they will have learned in 10 consecutive days if you taught one lesson a day. When they are done with lesson 10, y'all follow me?
Yeah.
Then you would give them their illustrated reader.
Did everyone hear that? Dr. Longovich, I want you to repeat what you just said. I want everyone to really get what goes on, in this case, after lesson 10.
When they finish lesson 10, and they have done these, you've taught each one of the paragraphs, then you would give them their illustrated reader. This is when we introduce the illustrated reader, when they have completed all the lessons in that story.
So that answers your question, right? Okay, good.
And the illustrated reader then is a booklet that they can now read by themselves, take home, share with their parents. This is a summary. This is a review. This is a statement of look at what you've done in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Are there any questions now as to how that works?
The illustrated reader is at the end of all the lessons for that story. It's kind of like the book. Like now you have the book.
It is. It's the culmination of all of their hard work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. A lot of heads nodding.
Okay? Now, let me show you one more thing. So now we're going to go back, and now I want to go back to my presentation real quickly, and I want to get to the, and by the way, I want you to know I'm winging a lot of this.
I'm with you.
I want to get to I just have to go through a couple of this and the key instruction of the software. And now I want to get to the reporting features.
Yeah.
So now you have your reporting features. You go to build reports, and you have an abundant amount of reporting features. Now, what I thought I'd do in this case, and Janice, I apologize to this. I didn't have enough time to use one of the two students that you suggested, and I took it upon myself to do a case study, if that's all right.
That's great.
I have not identified the student. But what I want to do is I want to show you what I would do if somebody would ask me the question, how would you look at a student and a student's performance? I would then look at what I call the diagnostic reports, part A and B. I would look at a student multiple story report. I would also look at the student's individual story performance as measured by the detailed student lesson and the detailed item analysis. And I'm going to explain all of that right now, okay?
Yes.
So, the first thing I would do if I had a new student, I would go to the diagnostic part A. I would click on Student Diagnostic Prescriptive Report. My screen would change and I would see where the student first tested in my I would then go to part B and I would click on Detailed Software Lesson Report. I would then find the student and I would see the pretest for this particular student. In this particular student, I saw that the student started my program in the green level. He had a pretest score of 70%. Because he had a pretest score of 70%, what does it say about the suitability of this material for this student, gang?
Appropriate to begin.
Appropriate. So then I look at the student, and I want to see what his track record is in failure-free. In other words, this is a student that's been in the program over a year. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
So now I want to track that student's performance over the year. So I would then go to the multiple story report. Student progress, multiple story. Is there any question right now as to what I've done?
No, we're good.
What's wrong when I see a 90% pre-test and 100% post-test?
Too easy, not enough challenge, right? Right.
The kid has been, the kid's been in 10 lessons, probably what?
Bored? Too easy.
Bored out of his mind. So now this is what happened. This is a true story. So now I talked to the teacher because I didn't do my job right, okay? I didn't explain the importance of pre-test and post-test. I didn't explain the notion that you've got to monitor and make sure they're not in there. And don't ignore a green flag. Does all of this make sense to the audience?
Yes.
So the teacher made an adjustment. So now here's the next screen. Now I look at this student, and now I'm seeing that the student has a pretest on making a journey, which is orange B, third grade. So listen to this now. This same student went from beginning first grade, ending first grade now, to orange B, which is third grade. Look at the pretest on this student. What's the score?
20%.
Look at the post-test.
Is it 100?
What can we say about growth there? Now I'm looking at this student 4 times here. I'm looking here and I'm seeing pre-post. I'm skipping this and I'm looking now and seeing now that the student has left the second half of Orange B, my grandfather's farm, and has then gone to teal, 4th grade. Pre-post growth, good. Pre-post growth, good. But I don't want to leave here. Why? What should I check into?
Any comments? What? Generalization being How they're doing it on independent?
Not yet. Let's just look at the track record of. Let's just look on the track record of pre-post test reports for this kid. Is there anything that stands out just on this?
The second one.
Yes. Who said that?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Looking at high, low. The second one is standing out as odd.
Yeah, the second. Thank you. That's exactly right. There's something wrong with that second one. The kid's going pre-post. So now what it's telling me is this. I want to explore what happened in that second story. Does this make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So now what I want to do is I want to explore what happened at Orange Bee, second story, my grandfather's farm. So how do I explore it? So I go to, by the way, before I get there, these are all of the words that this is just a partial list of all of the words that kid has mastered so far. Is that not incredible?
Yes.
But here's my concern. Y'all understand what I mean now about the concern?
Yes.
So how do I find out about it? So now I'm going to go back to Bill's reports. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to look at two things. Number one, I want to see how this kid did in that story, my grandfather's farm. I want to get a 30,000-foot view of how that kid did on a daily basis. And I can do that by going to Joseph's Readers, Bill's Reports, Item Analysis. And I'm going to click on that report. Do you all see where I am right now, correct?
Yes.
I clicked. I know that then says that that's the story I'm concerned about is Orange Level, story number 7, my grandfather's farm. I click on that, and all of a sudden, look what I see. Do you know what I'm looking at this moment in time? I am looking at a detailed item analysis of that student's daily performance on that story. Now let me show you how that breaks down. I'm going to, excuse me, go back. When I look at this, if it's circled, it means the things that the student has gotten correct. There are always 1, 2, 3. Every lesson consists of 25 questions asked of the student. 3 questions have to do with comprehension that end at the end of the pre-teaching. Then remember the talking book where they're asked to find the word. These are the 10 items there. And then the reinforcement activities where they fill in the blank. These are the 12 items there. Is there any question as to how that works? 3, 10, and 12. Yes?
Yes, you got it.
And at the end of the first lesson, that student got 20 out of 25 questions correct. What did it say about the suitability, reasonable suitability in the first lesson in that story?
Maybe a little too easy? Or you think it's just right?
No.
Outright?
It's just right, because remember this, Janet, this is occurring after instruction.
Right.
So this is so what we're monitoring now is, did instruction take? And so this is a daily way of monitoring how your pre-teaching took for the student on a daily basis. You all follow this?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if that's the case, is there any day or any lessons that we should be really concerned about?
Yeah.
6 and 7.
Whoever is answering this, and you got a star on your forehead.
Get a star. You get a star.
6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Yeah, because look here. 20 out of 25, 19 out of 25, 17, 20 out of 25, and all of a sudden we get to lesson 6, 13 out of 25. Lesson 11, lesson 7, 11 out of 25. So what is that telling me?
So when that occurs, they go back to 6.
So now we have a question. So we all agree that lesson 6 and lesson 7, after the fact, don't look good. Don't look good enough.
Exactly. So what it's telling me is I better find out what happened in lesson 6 and 7. So how do I do that? I then go, because this is what lesson 7 looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now I go to detailed software lesson report. I click on the detailed software lesson report, and that lesson has those 3 parts. Look at how that student did on the first 3 comprehension questions.
Missed everything. That's the goal.
Missed everything. Then I went to the word where it says the talking book and find the word. So they could find the words. Then I went to the fill in the blank. What does it tell me about the suitability of the pre-teaching for this kid, for this lesson?
Did not get it. Did not get it.
They didn't. Yeah. And should we have gone further?
So your recommendation, you go back to the pre-teaching?
My recommendation would be this. I would then ask myself, what was it that happened that day? Now, why did this happen? Especially if you go back and I look at stuff like this. It took here. This wasn't bad. This wasn't bad. These weren't bad. Did I do something wrong on 13 and 11? And I'm going to make a statement. You want to know what I bet could have happened here? Y'all ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Somebody could have chosen to put that kid initially in the talking software without doing the pre-teaching. And when you put kids in talking software without pre-teaching, that's what you see. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let's just say, Dr. Lockovich, that was not the case, and the teacher knows they did not, change their process. They follow the process. What would be another possible recommendation you'd make when you just see a dip like that?
Then I would have asked, was the student sick? Did I have to rush? Was it at the end of the day? Was there something that I did that I pushed too quickly? And I knew I was going too fast, but I didn't have the time? Was there something in here that I should have further reinforced or asked about to that student?
Yeah.
What was it that student could not relate to? What was preventing reading and relating?
Want some answers to that? I mean, you just,
That's what I would have asked.
yeah.
Okay. So, as I said now, by the way, has this helped everybody?
Yes, a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Lakovich, I'm just going to say, we scheduled this morning to end about now. So whatever you want to do, bring us to the end. I don't know if there are any burning questions. Okay.
Well, let me
finish.
I am exactly where I wanted in. Later this afternoon, and I've got to rush to the Janice. I will send the quick start guide to you. And then if you all have any questions, you can always reach me at joe.lakovich. Janice, later this afternoon or Monday, we have to talk about, I'm going to send that software material to your people as well. My gift to everybody, those 18 supplementary stories that will give the kids some more independent reading. I call it failure-free light.
Failure-free light?
Right. It is designed after they've all finished at least read, so that they can do this. Now, Janice, ask the people, show of hands on how many felt that this was a good session.
How many felt it was good? We have 100% felt that it was good. My question is, I would like to know if the people that are new, that are new and haven't even started the program yet, are feeling some sense of you're ready to really look at your materials, get on, and at least start with the diagnostic piece. How comfortable are those folks? Who feels like they could do it? Like, start it. So the hands are going up. Okay. Dr. Lakovich?
Yes.
Okay. Elise has one question. She's supporting some of the high schools.
Hi, how are you?
Yes.
High school teachers here, their students have been in middle school, but it seems that she's been trying to log on to see what level the kids were at in middle school, but because they changed schools, they're not seeing where the kids were in middle school. So now, I would think that the kids go with the same type of life system when they logged in. It would be bookmarked to where they left off.
I don't know. How can you answer that?
Jeff, I don't know if Jeff is still listening, but he's the key. He's my key person on that. My belief is that well, here he comes. So you got the main man right here on this.
All right, Jeff, did you hear the question?
Part of it. It's sort of like jumbled out. I don't think I heard it completely. Ask that again.
Okay, some of the teachers in high school, their students were on failure-free in middle school. When they log in with the licenses in high school, they're not seeing where their students were bookmarked or where they left off, and it's kind of...
All right, I know what's going on there. A lot of times when somebody gets a new lesson in a new school, the teachers will enroll them again. The records are still there with the previous student's login. So in other words, there are 2 copies of the kid in the system. So what we need to do is they need to tell me, and I do it personally, they need to tell me which kids came from another school to transfer them over from school to school, and I can...
Okay, so we'll just deal with you directly on that. Okay, great.
I'll deal with that.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and then what about the deleting students that are no longer there? They can just do that? Just what happened?
Well, that's the thing. There's 2 steps to that. Normally, people use the active-inactive thing to inactivate kids, okay? It used to be that we would delete kids outright, just like we do teachers when they're gone.
Right.
But a lot of times, when, like you said, they were moving from one school to another, somebody would delete the kid and all their records would in fact be gone. That was several years ago. So what I did, some of you probably, maybe only you, Janice, will have the district toolkit.
Yes.
And in that, it's not quite as pretty of a site. It's an old site, but it does a lot of powerful stuff. And that one has built into it a student delete feature. But it's my safe version of delete. What it does is it inactivates them, so it frees up the license so you can use it for another kid. But it also removes them from a classroom. So in other words, they're still technically registered with the school. They're not taking up a license. They might as well be wandering the hall without a teacher, but they're in the records, and so you never actually lose the kid's record, and you can find them later, say if you need to do some kind of diagnostic on how your people have been doing the last couple of years.
So Jeff will work with you, Janice, on that, and we'll find a way to get those kids and their data to the respective teachers.
Okay, so we'll do that directly with you, and then it's important, I think I hear you saying, that if any teachers here have students from last year that they don't have anymore, in the class, we want to make sure that they're inactive so they're not taking up a license, right?
Right, and if you actually feel like you need to really delete them, that district tool that probably only you have access to will remove them from classes, so they won't show up on any teacher's reports, but they don't lose their record.
Okay. Oh, right. Yes, that's what she was talking about. Yeah, that's what she's talking about. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Lokovich, you want to give us another moment of your time to end?
Yeah, one more thing. For the high school people, you have the gist, you have everything that you need in order to go forward. If you are using life skills, I will send you a training session like this. We have one recorded, and that's Camille, right, Jeff? I'm pretty sure we do. And then you'll be able to move quickly through and get an overview of life skills and how to use it.
Okay, you're gonna send it to me, or you're gonna send it to why don't you send it to me?
I'll send it to you, and then you can distribute it accordingly.
Okay, got it.
So you're going to get the quick start guide. You're going to get we're going to give you access to the software. We're actually going to send you software.
Got it.
For everybody that's in there, for my people, and then we'll send you the access electronically to the life skill training.
Got it. Okay.
Well, I'm going to let y'all go, and I want to tell you how excited I am. Again, I am Joe Godlockovich at failurefree.com, away from everybody. So if you need me, you contact me. And I will have you tell you how excited.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gang.